Hey everybody, welcome back to MPQ Mastery, where we help you to destroy more gems. And I've actually gotten quite a few questions over the last few weeks of asking for some 3-star teams, and this is one of my favorites. It is the 3-star Iron Fist, the 3-star Magneto, and the 3-star Quicksilver. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification for future videos as well. We're just getting started. Now this is an awesome team for people who don't have a whole lot of access to 4s and 5s. If you really are just up to the 3s, this team of Magneto, Iron Fist, and Quicksilver works really well together, and it helps you run the board early on. So Magneto is going to actually end up being your main damage dealer, although all 3 of them are actually able to deal some really decent damage. His blue ability deals tons of damage, his red ability deals lots of damage and gets rid of team tiles, which is fine because you won't really use them that much in this combo. And then his yellow ability creates protect tiles, but that also kind of muddies up the board, and we'll explain that a little bit later. Now Iron Fist is out there dealing damage every round because of his one ability that creates an attack tile on there. If there's not one already, that's really awesome for some good damage. But also he uses his purple power to create lots of black tiles, which is really cool. If you have a bunch of black on there, then it turns from that into a nice punch attack, which is great. He also has a green ability that deals some damage and also puts some strike tiles on the board, which I usually use once or twice before I switch then to using Quicksilver's green ability, and we're going to talk about that one in a second. Now for Quicksilver, the black tiles that Iron Fist is creating goes a long way to fuel his power that allows him to swap tiles and deal damage, which is nice. He's also got a green ability that freezes tile and deals some really decent damage, and his blue ability that deals massive damage if you have 4 more frozen tiles, but primarily we're using him for the swapping. Now, matches usually go like this. First thing, you focus on matching those purples. That fuels Iron Fist's ability. If you don't have any of those available, you want to make sure too that you're using Quicksilver's black ability before Iron Fist's purple ability. Because if he gets too many black tiles, then the purple ability ends up switching to one big attack instead of producing the black tiles that we actually want. Once you start swapping, use those to make 5 matches, focusing on the blues and the reds to fuel Magneto's big attacks. You can essentially ignore yellows in this group, but if you happen to get those anyway, you can use it to put some protect tiles on the board if you want, but it's not super important to this combo. So Magneto's red ability is going to fill up quicker than his blue ability, and that destroys all the team-up tiles. But not if Quicksilver has frozen them, which is cool. Instead, he'll just make them unfrozen, which is a good way to make this red power be usable multiple times. Along the way, you'll also be hitting blues like crazy, freezing tiles, and once you have 5 of them, Quicksilver's going to deal a ton of damage as well. In a way, he can deal just as much damage as Magneto, but in shorter spurts as opposed to the big hits that Magneto is going to end up doing. So, Iron Fist creates the blacks. Quicksilver uses those blacks to match different colors, usually blues and reds. Those blues and reds get used for Magneto's big attacks. That's the cycle, and that's the way that you want to go. And if you end up getting some greens, you want to use Iron Fist's abilities first, and then after you have some strike tiles on the board, then you want to switch to Quicksilver's, which will also create more frozen tiles, which helps when you match the red. It's a really great kind of back and forth cycle here. Now, of course, there are some pros and cons to this group, just like any group. You have to definitely keep an eye on your black levels, as I mentioned earlier, because you want to make sure that you're activating Iron Fist's purple ability that allows you to create all the black tiles. But after you have so much black AP, it turns into a big attack. You don't want to use the big attack unless, like, you just have all the black in the world and you have no reason to create any more. Now Magneto's blue attack actually deals quite a bit of damage, but is based on how many reds and blue tiles are on the board. So you want to make sure that you're destroying those in order to fuel his powers, but also not enough that it doesn't deal as much damage because the tiles aren't there. It's a weird, delicate balance. Now since purple is the focus of this team up so that you can keep those black tiles flowing, that puts Iron Fist in the forefront. So even though Magneto can create some protect tiles, I find that it's usually a distraction, and it's not really worth it. The reason why is because Quicksilver can't swap non-basic tiles, which means if there's protect tiles randomly on the board and that would stop you from making those good switches, you just can't do it. So it's actually worth it just to let Iron Fist get hit some and take a little bit more damage than he normally would in order to have more options when it comes to swapping tiles. And other than that, however, I've seen cycles of purple and black feeding in the blues and reds, so that like you really are only getting hit a few times in the very beginning of the match, and then after that, as soon as you get that cycle going, you run the board. You're creating black tiles, and then swapping, and then getting 5s, and then dealing lots of damage, and then making more purples, especially if you use the swapping ability to fuel even more purple. So it becomes that sort of thing as well. But this is one of my all-time favorite groups because it's low level and yet super, super effective. So if you haven't tried this team before, go and try it, and I want you to come back and let me know what you think. If you have tried it before, hey, what do you think? Otherwise, I want to hear all the discussion about this in the comments, and as always, thank you for coming to MPQ Mastery, where we teach you to destroy more gyms. If you've got a character that you are looking for a good team up for, let me know who that character is, and I will try and create a video to tell you about a really cool matchup for that character.